Are you experiencing electrical gremlins in your BMW, like the radio is not working or the climate control is not responding? Does your steering wheel move or weird stuff happens when the passenger's vanity mirror is opened? Perhaps the instrument cluster doesn't work, lights are dim or the airbag light is on. Good evening and welcome to Proper Repair. Previously mentioned symptoms are known to be a result of a bad ignition switch, so in this video I will be showing you how to replace it. Ignition switch is hidden in here, so start with pushing the steering wheel all the way down. With the electrically adjusted ones, slide them also all the way out. First, we remove the two Phillips screws which are holding the plastic cover. One is here at the top. Once removed, you also need to take out the plastic clamp. Once you have the top screw out, move underneath the steering wheel and you'll see the second one. Procedure is the same. Then there are two small screws which are T10 and hold to the bottom cover. You don't necessarily need to remove those, but it makes the further process a bit easier. With electronically adjusted steering, those don't exist anyway. Now you can detach both covers. Take your time and don't force it so you don't break any clips. Push the top part somewhat inside and wiggle it out until it pops out of its place. The bottom part can now be removed and placed aside. And now, when I zoom in, we can already see all the thick cables that are going into the switch. Take a flathead screwdriver to unhook the plug. The top part is held in by 4 rivets that easily pop out using 2 hands, but are very stubborn if you're holding a camera with one hand. This piece of leather also gets in the way. You can try to tuck it under those 2 knobs or secure it with some duct tape. The ignition switch is placed in a plastic housing which is held in with 2 T30 screws. One can be seen here and the other is down here. The bottom one is easy to get, just mind the rubber piece which is also held with it. The one on the top, however, is a bit trickier. You can try to fit a ratchet in there, preferably one with a swivel head. I'm starting with a Torx key to get it loose, and later I switch to a Torx bit that I just turned by hand. It might require a bit of patience and ingenuity to get it out. Once you got those 2 out, you can slide the housing a bit out of the way, which exposes 2 more screws. Those take a small slotted screwdriver. You actually don't need to remove them, just unscrew them until they are about halfway out. Now the ignition switch is free and we can take it out. Just grab it and wiggle it out, it shouldn't give you much trouble. If it seems stuck, do not apply any excessive force, rather check those 2 small screws again. And there we have it, one ignition switch ready to be replaced. Let's compare the old and the new ignition switch. First, be sure that the new one is in the same position as the old one at the time of removing it. If not, just turn it with a screwdriver. Check that the pins look the same. On some models there are 2 more at the end, however not on my model. It looks like markings of the new one have been scraped off, which is common for OEM parts that come from the same assembly line as the dealer parts. On the side we also see that the BMW part number has been removed. Before installing the new switch, it's a good idea to double check its position. It needs to slide in freely without any excessive force. Once you get the switch in its position, simply follow the previous steps in the reverse order. We have 2 small slotted screws, one Torx at the bottom, the other Torx on the side, and again I'm using 3 different tools here. Then plug in the connector and check if it works. Time to reattach the covers, make sure they clip in place nicely. Don't forget the clamps and screws for the covers. And last but not least, those 2 T10 screws. As we saw earlier, ignition switch has 9 pins or 11 in some models, and basically what it does is making contacts between them depending on the position of the key. All the pins are nicely numbered, let's check the diagram. The switch gets power from 2 fuses on the middle 3 pins and makes contact to the other 6. As you see, pin 2 gets power when key is in the accessory position, pins 3 and 9 can feed their consumers when in run position, and the immobilizer gets signal on crank only. Connections are not exclusive, but rather superseding, meaning that pin 2 also gets power when in run and crank. So now we know how many fuses this switch serves and has therefore be able to transmit a lot of current. Keep that in mind when you buy a replacement one. Still, we can take a look inside and see if we can fix it. Take a pick or a small screwdriver and pry along the edge to get the top part open. It's not too difficult, just takes a bit of patience and make sure you don't lose any parts. The other 6 pins are attached to those flat springs and make contact to the inner 3 pins. You can clean inside of the switch with some contact spray cleaner and use sandpaper to make contacts nice and shiny again. I'm using a small stripe of 600 grit paper that I will fold in half, fit in the switch between the contacts and rub back and forth. When you're done, follow the procedure to put it back together. First, check that this plastic part is in the correct position and then hold it together with the front part. Then push those two together into the top part. It needs to fit nicely in those 2 small notches. The rest is easy. Clip both pieces together. To make sure it operates properly, take a key and rotate it. Accessory, run, crank, and then a second crank should be blocked.